The lights dimmed, and a trembling boy stepped onto the stage, clutching the microphone as if it were his lifeline. No one knew his pain, his silent battles, or the dream he carried in his fragile voice. Then, with one haunting note, hearts across the room began to break. His name was Ethan, a 13-year-old boy with wide, searching eyes and a nervous smile that tried to mask the storm inside. To the judges, he was just another contestant walking onto the stage of a small-town talent show. To the crowd, he was a fragile figure, dwarfed by the spotlight. But for Ethan, this night meant everything. He had chosen a song most people wouldn't expect from someone his age, Hotel California. It wasn't trendy, it wasn't modern, and yet, it was a song that held the deepest meaning for him. His late father used to hum it softly while driving down long, empty highways. To Ethan, that song wasn't just music, it was memory, it was love, it was the echo of a voice he thought he'd never hear again. As he stood on stage, his hands trembling, the world seemed to blur. He could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. Doubt whispered inside his head, what if my voice cracks? What if they laugh? What if I fail? But then, another voice echoed louder, the memory of his father's words, when you sing from the heart, son, you never fail. You touch souls. Ethan took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and allowed the first words of the song to escape. His voice was shaky at first, fragile like glass. But then, something changed. Each lyric carried a piece of his soul, each note flowed with raw emotion, and every vibration seemed to carry the weight of his story. The audience leaned forward, curious, then captivated. The judges exchanged surprised glances. Nobody had expected such depth, such haunting sincerity, from a boy so young. His voice wasn't perfect, it was better than perfect. It was real, and in that authenticity lay a power no one could ignore. By the second verse, silence had fallen over the hall. People who had come for entertainment now found themselves holding their breath. Something unexplainable was happening. Ethan wasn't just singing a song, he was living it. Every lyric felt like a cry from his heart, every word painted memories of love, loss, and resilience. And then, as he sang about voices down the corridor, the tears finally began to flow, first from Ethan himself, and then from the audience. His pain had reached them, breaking through the walls of their own hidden struggles. Strangers wept quietly, not just for the boy, but for the memories and emotions he had awakened within them. At that moment, Ethan wasn't just a boy on a stage. He was a mirror of every person who had ever lost someone they loved, every soul who had ever carried pain, every heart that longed to heal. Long before Ethan ever set foot on that stage, life had already tested him in ways most children could never imagine. He grew up in a small town on the edge of endless fields, where nights were quiet and dreams felt too far away. His family wasn't wealthy, but they were rich in something far more precious, love. His father, Daniel, worked as a mechanic in a dusty old garage. Grease always stained his hands, but his heart was pure. His mother, Claire, stayed home, humming lullabies while making warm meals that filled their little house with comfort. But life, as Ethan learned, doesn't always preserve the things we love most. When Ethan was just 9, his father fell ill. At first, it seemed like nothing more than fatigue, a man tired from long days of work. But soon, the truth revealed itself, a disease that took his strength day by day. Ethan remembered those nights vividly, his father lying on the couch, struggling to catch his breath, yet still finding the strength to smile at him. "Come here, buddy," he would whisper. And Ethan would curl up beside him, listening as his father softly hummed the tune of Hotel California. That song became their bond, their secret escape. Whenever his father sang, the sickness seemed to disappear for a few moments. Ethan could almost believe they were on one of those long road trips again, windows rolled down, the world open and endless. But one winter evening, the song ended too soon. His father passed away, leaving a silence so heavy it suffocated the home. Ethan was shattered. He was too young to understand why life had been so cruel, but old enough to feel the hollow ache of absence. His mother tried to stay strong, but grief hung in the air like a storm cloud. Bills piled up, smiles faded. The boy who once laughed freely grew quiet, his eyes carrying the weight of loss far beyond his years. And yet, in that silence, something stirred inside him. One night, while rummaging through his father's things, Ethan found an old guitar. Its strings were rusty, the wood scratched, but to Ethan, it was a treasure. Carefully, he plucked at the strings, and though the sound was rough, it lit a spark. He began to teach himself. Every night after homework, he sat on the edge of his bed, strumming until his fingers ached. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but each mistake carried him closer to the sound he longed to create. With every note, he felt closer to his father, as if the man he had lost was still sitting beside him, guiding his hands. Music became Ethan's refuge. When loneliness clawed at him, he played. When sadness weighed on his chest, he sang. And when the world seemed unbearably cruel, he whispered to himself the words his father had once told him: "When you sing from the heart, you never fail." Still, not everyone understood. Kids at school mocked him. They didn't see a grieving boy chasing connection. They saw someone weird, someone who preferred songs from the past instead of modern hits. "Who even listens to that old stuff?" they would jeer. Ethan didn't fight back, he just lowered his head and kept singing. Deep down, he knew it wasn't about impressing them. It was about holding onto the last thread that tied him to his dad. One afternoon, as he sat on the front porch strumming quietly, his mother came outside. Her eyes were tired, but when she heard the familiar chords, tears welled up. She sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You sound just like him," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan didn't reply, he only played louder, letting the strings carry the words he couldn't say. That was the first time his mother smiled again in months. That moment planted a seed in her heart. She knew Ethan's gift couldn't remain hidden. He wasn't just singing, he was healing, not just himself but everyone who listened. So, when the town announced its annual talent show, she signed him up without asking. Ethan resisted at first. The idea of standing before strangers, bearing his soul, terrified him. What if they laughed? What if his voice cracked? What if he froze? But his mother gently cupped his face, her eyes filled with love. "Ethan," she said softly, "your father's voice lives in you. Don't be afraid to share it. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear it too." And so, after weeks of practice, countless moments of doubt, and endless whispers of encouragement from his mother, the day arrived. Ethan stood backstage, staring at the heavy curtains. His guitar trembled in his hands. He could hear the muffled noise of the audience, the laughter, the chatter. His heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. Then he remembered that night, his father, weak but smiling, humming Hotel California for the last time. That memory became his anchor. He wasn't singing for fame, or trophies, or applause. He was singing for his father. For himself. For every heart that carried pain. And when the announcer called his name, Ethan took one shaky step forward. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "Next up, we have Ethan Matthews." The curtain parted, and a hush fell across the crowd. A small boy stepped forward, clutching a guitar that looked almost too big for him. The stage lights illuminated his pale face, and for a moment, he looked like a deer caught in headlights, fragile, uncertain, trembling. Ethan's legs felt weak, his palms slick with sweat. The microphone loomed before him, tall and intimidating. His eyes darted toward the audience, rows upon rows of strangers, expectant faces, whispers spreading like wildfire. He swallowed hard. What if I can't do this? What if I fail? But then, he closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his lids, he saw his father smile. He heard that soft humming, the way it once filled their small home. And suddenly, the world quieted. His fingers strummed the opening chords of Hotel California. The sound was shaky at first, uneven, but soon the rhythm steadied. The notes shimmered under the glow of the spotlight, each vibration echoing into the silent room. Then he sang, "On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair." His voice was gentle, almost too soft at first, but it carried something deeper than volume, it carried truth. Each word felt drenched in memory, every note soaked in grief and love. By the second line, the tremble in his tone transformed into raw, unfiltered emotion. The judges leaned forward, the audience stilled. No one expected a 13-year-old boy to deliver a song so hauntingly alive. Verse by verse, Ethan poured himself into the performance. His eyes remained closed, not from fear, but because he was somewhere else entirely. He wasn't standing on a stage anymore. He was back in his father's old truck, the windows rolled down, the warm wind brushing against his face, the radio playing that same song as his father tapped the steering wheel in rhythm. As the chorus swelled, "Welcome to the Hotel California," his voice cracked, not from lack of skill, but from emotion. That crack carried something deeper than perfection ever could. It carried pain. It carried love. It carried the soul of a boy who had lost too much too soon. People in the audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their throats tightening. A woman in the second row wiped a tear from her cheek. A man in the back, stoic, rigid, crossed his arms as if trying to resist the wave of feeling, but his eyes betrayed him, glistening in the light. By the second chorus, something extraordinary was happening. The audience wasn't just listening, they were remembering. Each note unlocked hidden doors inside their hearts. Some thought of parents long gone, others of dreams abandoned, loves lost, or roads never traveled. Ethan's voice had become a mirror, reflecting back to them their own unspoken pain. And then came the line, voices down the corridor, I thought I heard them say. Ethan's throat tightened. For a split second, he thought he wouldn't make it through. But then he remembered his father's words, when you sing from the heart, son, you never fail. He pushed forward, his voice trembling yet powerful, breaking yet unbreakable. The tears came, not just his own, but the audience's. They flowed quietly at first, then freely, until entire rows of strangers were wiping their faces. One of the judges, a woman known for her sharp criticism, removed her glasses and pressed a hand to her chest. Another judge leaned back, exhaling slowly, as though he'd just witnessed something sacred. And then, silence. The final chord lingered in the air, like a prayer, fading into stillness. Ethan lowered his guitar, his hands trembling. He dared not open his eyes. The silence felt endless. For one terrifying moment, he thought he had failed, that the crowd was unmoved, that his father's song had slipped into emptiness. But then it happened. A single clap, then another, and another, until the hall erupted into thunderous applause. People rose to their feet, cheering, crying, clapping as if their hearts depended on it. Ethan opened his eyes, stunned. He had never seen so many people stand for him before. He had never heard such a roar of love. His chest ached, but this time, it wasn't from grief, it was from something new, something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The judges wiped their tears openly. The harshest among them leaned into the microphone, her voice trembling. Ethan, she said, I have judged hundreds of performances, maybe thousands. But what you gave us tonight wasn't just a song. It was truth. It was life. You reminded us why music exists, to heal, to connect, to remind us that we are human. The crowd cheered louder. Ethan's mother, sitting in the back, pressed her hands to her face. Her tears fell freely, but her smile was brighter than ever. In that moment, she didn't just see her son, she saw her husband's spirit living on through him. And then, something unexpected happened. From the side of the stage, an older man stood. His gray hair was disheveled, his clothes plain. He clutched something in his hand, a small, battered harmonica. The audience quieted as he stepped forward. His voice cracked as he spoke. That song, I used to play it with my brother. He's gone now, but tonight, through you, I felt like I heard him again. Thank you, son, thank you. He pressed the harmonica into Ethan's hand, his eyes glistening. The boy stared at it, overwhelmed. He didn't know this man, yet in that moment, they were bound by something deeper than words, shared grief, shared healing. The crowd erupted again, louder than before. Ethan clutched the harmonica against his chest. For the first time since his father's passing, he felt light. Not because the pain was gone, but because he realized something profound. Grief is not a cage, it's a bridge. Through his music, he could keep his father's memory alive, not just for himself, but for others too. That night, Ethan walked off the stage not just as a contestant, not just as a boy, but as a voice. A voice that carried love across walls, across wounds, across strangers' hearts. As the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, one truth lingered in the air: kindness, love, and the courage to share our pain can heal more than we imagine. Ethan hadn't just sung a song. He had given people a gift, a reminder that even in loss, even in sorrow, there is beauty. And as his mother hugged him tightly, whispering through her tears, he would be so proud of you, Ethan finally believed it. His father wasn't gone. He lived in every note, every tear, every heart his voice had touched. That night, the world didn't just hear a boy sing Hotel California. They witnessed the power of humanity. They remembered that even the smallest voice, when filled with truth, can move mountains.